The notification that lit up Arjun Malhotra's phone at 2:47 a.m. in his Dubai Marina penthouse should have been a sweet goodnight message from his fiancée. Instead, it was a photograph of Kavya Patel in wedding attire, married to another man for 4 years, while she planned to disappear with his life savings the moment she obtained UAE residency. If you're fascinated by true crime stories that expose how modern technology can weaponize love for international deception, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because this case will reveal the dark reality behind matrimonial fraud targeting successful expatriates. But let's go back to where it all began. Arjun Malhotra's corner office on the 34th floor of Emirates Towers commanded a view that never failed to remind him of his success. The Burj Khalifa pierced the desert sky like a steel needle, while below, the ordered chaos of Dubai's financial district pulsed with the energy of a city built on ambition. At 29, he was the youngest senior software architect in Emirates NBD's fintech division, commanding a salary that made his parents in Mumbai beam with pride during their weekly video calls. His Marina apartment showcased floor-to-ceiling windows, Italian marble countertops, and designer furniture that whispered of a life perfectly curated for Instagram success. But as Arjun stared at his reflection in the darkened window that September evening, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and white, he felt an emptiness that no amount of professional achievement could fill. The Dubai dating scene had proven as artificial as the city's indoor ski slopes. Western expatriate women seemed more interested in weekend trips to Mykonos and Michelin-starred restaurants than building anything lasting, while the cultural barriers that separated him from local connections felt insurmountable despite 5 years of calling the UAE home. His mother Mira's suggestions about arranged marriage had initially been dismissed with the casual arrogance of someone who believed love should be spontaneous and choice unlimited. But watching his colleagues settle into comfortable partnerships with women found through family connections, seeing their genuine contentment during office celebrations and casual conversations, the traditional approach began gaining appeal like a familiar melody remembered from childhood. The decision crystallized during a particularly lonely weekend in October, when monsoon delays in Mumbai prevented his usual video call with his parents, leaving him alone in his pristine apartment with nothing but the hum of central air conditioning and the distant sound of celebration from neighboring balconies. Sitting cross-legged on his leather sofa, laptop balanced on his knees, Arjun created his profile on BartMatrimony.com with the same methodical precision he brought to debugging complex financial algorithms. His photographs told a carefully curated story of expatriate success. The professional headshot from the company's annual report, where his confident smile suggested leadership and stability. Casual shots from weekend visits to Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque and Dubai Fountain, proving his appreciation for both culture and beauty. Family pictures from his last Mumbai visit, showing him touching his grandmother's feet in traditional respect, demonstrating that Western success hadn't eroded his cultural roots. His profile read like a perfectly optimized resume. IIT Delhi computer science graduate, senior software architect at Emirates NBD, Dubai resident with permanent EE visa, seeking educated traditional bride for marriage and family. The response overwhelmed his inbox within 6 hours. Dozens of profiles flooded his notifications, each representing a different vision of potential happiness, different paths his future might take. Photographs of women in traditional saris and modern professional attire, biodata detailing engineering degrees and MBA qualifications, family descriptions ranging from modest middle class to established business dynasties. The sheer volume of choice felt simultaneously exhilarating and paralyzing, like standing in Dubai Mall's vast corridors with unlimited budget, but no clear destination. But when Kavya Patel's profile appeared among the endless scroll of possibilities, Arjun's browsing stopped as completely as if someone had pressed pause on his heartbeat. Her photograph showed a woman whose beauty transcended the typical glamour shots that dominated the platform. Expressive dark eyes held intelligence and mystery in equal measure, while her smile suggested secrets worth discovering. She wore an elegant teal kurta with silver embroidery, the traditional style suggesting modesty, while her confident posture hinted at modern education and worldly awareness. Her hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders, and there was something in her expression that seemed to look directly at him through the screen, creating an intimacy that made him forget the artificial nature of their digital introduction. The accompanying profile text was equally compelling. 26 years old, literature graduate from Punjab University, currently working as a program coordinator for an NGO focused on rural education initiatives. Her interests included classical music, contemporary fiction, and community development work. She described herself as someone seeking a life partner who valued both cultural traditions and progressive thinking, someone ready to build a family while making meaningful contributions to society. Their first conversation happened through the platform's secure messaging system, and Kavya's opening message immediately distinguished her from every other interaction Arjun had experienced on the site. Instead of the typical formal greetings and lists of accomplishments, she wrote with genuine curiosity about his experience living in Dubai, asking specific questions about Middle Eastern culture that revealed she'd actually researched the UAE rather than simply viewing it as a pathway to Western lifestyle. Kavya's first message arrived at precisely 11:30 p.m. Dubai time, when Arjun was reviewing code for the bank's new blockchain implementation, his mind still buzzing with algorithms and security protocols. I read that Dubai has over 200 nationalities living together harmoniously, she had written. As someone working in rural education, I'm curious about how such diversity actually functions in daily life. Do you find yourself becoming a different person in that environment? Or do you feel more authentically yourself when surrounded by such global perspectives? The question caught him off guard with its depth and specificity. Most matrimonial conversations began with safe inquiries about salary, family background, or immigration prospects. But Kavya seemed genuinely interested in understanding his inner experience of expatriate life, the psychological dimensions that nobody had ever bothered exploring. His response turned into a thoughtful essay about cultural adaptation, the loneliness that could exist even in the world's most cosmopolitan cities, and his growing appreciation for traditions he'd taken for granted while living in India. Their message exchanges evolved over 3 weeks into something resembling intellectual courtship. Kavya wrote about her work with village children who dreamed of seeing skyscrapers, but couldn't imagine buildings taller than their local Gurdwara. She described the challenge of teaching English to students who had never seen the ocean, despite living in a country with thousands of kilometers of coastline. Her writing revealed layers of empathy and cultural observation that made Arjun realize how superficial his previous relationships had been, how much he'd been settling for compatibility instead of connection. The transition to WhatsApp felt inevitable when their conversations began spanning multiple platform messages, their thoughts too complex for the matrimonial site's limited interface. Kavya's profile picture showed her in a simple white kurta at what appeared to be a rural school, surrounded by children who were gazing at her with obvious adoration. Her status message read, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, Mandela," and somehow that quote, which would have seemed pretentious from anyone else, felt perfectly authentic coming from her. Their texting style revealed intimate dimensions of personality that formal profiles could never capture. Kavya's humor emerged in playful observations about Bollywood films. Her serious contemplation showed when discussing rural development challenges, and her gentle flirtation made Arjun's heart race during late-night conversations that stretched across the India time difference. She would send him pictures of her daily routine. Morning prayers at the local Gurdwara with golden sunlight streaming through the windows, afternoon sessions teaching children basic English under spreading banyan trees, evening meals with her elderly parents who still maintained traditional joint family customs. The voice calls began in November, when Kavya suggested they needed to hear each other speak to truly understand compatibility. Her voice possessed a melodious quality that made even routine conversations feel like private concerts. There was music in her Punjab-accented English, rhythm in the way she shifted between languages when describing concepts that required Hindi or Punjabi precision. She would laugh with genuine delight when Arjun attempted Punjabi phrases, gently correcting his pronunciation while praising his willingness to learn her regional language. During their nightly calls, which often stretched until dawn prayers echoed across Dubai Marina, Kavya painted detailed pictures of her world that made Arjun homesick for places he'd never been. She described village life with novelist precision, the sound of bullock carts on narrow roads, the scent of burning dung cakes that signaled cooking time, the evening gatherings where elderly women shared stories that connected current generations to ancestral wisdom. Her descriptions were so vivid that Arjun began dreaming of Punjab countryside, imagining himself walking those dusty paths beside the woman whose voice had become the soundtrack to his daily routine. Video calls started in December, and seeing Kavya's face animated by conversation created an intimacy that voice alone couldn't provide. She appeared against carefully controlled backgrounds that suggested modest, but dignified living conditions. Arjun caught glimpses of simple furniture that looked handmade rather than purchased, traditional wall hangings featuring Sikh religious symbols, and occasionally her mother moving quietly in the background, always dressed in traditional salwar kameez with her head respectfully covered. Kavya's own appearance during these calls reinforced everything her profile had promised. She dressed conservatively in simple kurtas and dupattas, her hair neatly braided, presenting herself as the perfect synthesis of modern education and traditional values. But it was their philosophical conversations that sealed Arjun's emotional fate. Kavya spoke passionately about social justice with the fervor of someone who had witnessed poverty firsthand and chosen to combat it through education rather than escape it through marriage. She discussed literature with scholarly insight, quoting everyone from Amrita Pritam to Toni Morrison, analyzing how stories could bridge cultural gaps and create empathy across economic divides. When Arjun shared his own dreams of eventually returning to India to establish technology training centers in rural areas, Kavya's enthusiasm was immediate and infectious. Imagine combining your technical expertise with grassroots educational initiatives, she said during one late-night call, her eyes bright with possibility. We could create programs that bring 21st-century skills to villages that have been forgotten by urban development policies. Technology could be the bridge between traditional wisdom and global opportunities. Those conversations revealed shared values that went beyond romantic compatibility into genuine partnership potential. They began planning hypothetical projects together, digital literacy programs for rural women, mobile apps that could teach farming techniques in local languages, technology solutions for problems that government policies had failed to address. Their relationship was evolving from personal attraction into collaborative vision, and Arjun found himself more excited about building a future with Kavya than he'd ever been about any individual achievement. The financial requests began subtly in January, woven into conversations about her work in ways that seemed natural rather than manipulative. Kavya mentioned that their NGO was struggling to purchase textbooks for a new literacy program, lamenting how bureaucratic delays were preventing children from accessing basic educational resources. When Arjun offered to contribute, her gratitude seemed genuine but restrained, as though accepting help required overcoming personal pride. The initial transfer was modest, $500 to purchase English primers for village children, and Kavya sent photographs of smiling students holding the books, their names written in careful script on a thank you card that made Arjun's contribution feel meaningful and concrete. But success breeds appetite, and Kavya's subsequent requests grew in both frequency and sophistication. February brought an urgent message about her father's sudden hospitalization, accompanied by medical documents that looked authentic enough to convince someone who wanted to believe. The diabetes complications required immediate surgery, and their rural government hospital demanded advance payment that her family couldn't afford. Arjun transferred $3,000 without hesitation, receiving tearful video calls from Kavya where she praised his generosity while her mother wept gratefully in the background. March introduced infrastructure emergencies that seemed designed to tug at Arjun's heartstrings with surgical precision. The roof of their family home had partially collapsed during unexpected spring storms, leaving elderly parents exposed to elements that could prove fatal given her father's weakened condition. The repair estimates required $5,000 for materials and labor, and Kavya's anguish seemed authentic as she described sleeping beside her parents' bed to shield them from rainwater dripping through damaged ceiling tiles. By April, the requests had evolved into investment opportunities that appealed to Arjun's business instincts while maintaining emotional resonance. Kavya's NGO had secured government approval for a revolutionary educational project that would establish computer centers in 12 rural villages, bringing digital literacy to communities that had never seen internet connectivity. The initial funding had fallen through due to political changes in state government, leaving them with signed contracts, but no capital to begin implementation. "This isn't charity anymore," Kavya explained during a late-night call, her voice mixing excitement with desperation. "This is an investment in social change that could transform thousands of lives while generating sustainable revenue. We have government backing, community support, everything except the initial $15,000 to purchase equipment and establish the first pilot center." The proposition seemed legitimate enough to survive Arjun's analytical scrutiny. Educational technology was exploding across rural India. Government policies favored digital inclusion initiatives, and Kavya's passion for the project was impossible to fake. She sent him detailed business plans, demographic studies, and testimonials for village leaders expressing enthusiasm for the program. When Arjun agreed to provide the funding, Kavya's gratitude transformed into something approaching worship, her video calls becoming intimate celebrations of their partnership that felt more like courtship than business collaboration. But the most sophisticated manipulation was yet to come. In May, as their relationship deepened into serious marriage discussions, Kavya introduced the concept that would ultimately drain Arjun's Dubai savings account. Her family had received several marriage proposals from successful local families, creating pressure that threatened to separate her from the man she had grown to love across digital distances. Traditional expectations demanded that she accept one of these proposals unless Arjun could demonstrate his serious intentions through formal engagement procedures. "My parents aren't materialistic people," Kavya explained during a tearful conversation that left Arjun emotionally devastated. "But they need assurance that this relationship has substance beyond romantic feelings. In our culture, love marriages require even more proof of commitment than arranged ones, because families bear greater social risk when traditional procedures are modified." The engagement requirements seemed reasonable within cultural contexts that Arjun understood intellectually despite his years of Western living. Traditional jewelry for the ceremony would cost $8,000. Venue bookings for the formal announcement required advance payments of $4,000. And various family obligations demanded additional expenditures that totaled nearly $20,000. Each expense came with detailed explanations and cultural justifications that appealed to Arjun's desire to honor traditions while building bridges between their different worlds. The breaking point should have arrived when Arjun's childhood friend Rohit, who worked for a Delhi-based corporate investigation firm, offered to conduct discreet background verification on the Patel family. The suggestion emerged during a casual conversation about marriage planning. Rohit's professional instincts triggered by the financial amounts involved and the long-distance nature of their relationship. Kavya's reaction was immediate and emotionally devastating. She accused Arjun of fundamental mistrust that undermined everything they had built together, questioned whether his love was genuine or merely transactional, and threatened to terminate their engagement if he couldn't demonstrate faith in their relationship without requiring detective investigations. Her hurt was so profound, her tears so authentic during their video call confrontation, that Arjun felt ashamed of his suspicions. "If you need private investigators to believe in my love," she sobbed, her face streaked with tears that seemed to flow from genuine heartbreak, "then perhaps we don't have the foundation necessary for marriage. My family has welcomed you with open hearts, trusted you with our financial struggles, shared our dreams of building something beautiful together. But you want to hire strangers to verify our authenticity like we're criminals rather than people who love you." The argument lasted hours across multiple calls, with Kavya alternating between heartbroken disappointment and dignified anger that made Arjun feel like the worst kind of paranoid fool. Her emotional manipulation was so sophisticated that she convinced him his reasonable caution was actually character weakness, that true love required blind faith, that questioning her was essentially questioning the foundation of their relationship. Instead of investigating further, Arjun doubled down on his commitment with characteristic intensity. He arranged extended leave from Emirates NBD, explaining to his manager that he needed time for traditional marriage ceremonies that required physical presence in India. He booked premium Emirates flights from Dubai to Delhi, selecting seats and meal preferences with the careful attention of someone embarking on the most important journey of his life. His Dubai apartment was prepared for extended absence, bills arranged for automatic payment, plants entrusted to neighbors who envied his romantic adventure. The shopping expedition for traditional gifts consumed an entire weekend at Dubai's Gold Souk and various cultural centers. The emerald and gold jewelry set he selected cost $12,000 and came with authentication certificates that verified the quality of gems and precious metals. Traditional silk fabrics, Swiss chocolates, Canadian maple products, and various luxury items that would demonstrate his international sophistication and cultural appreciation filled multiple suitcases. Each purchase was documented with photographs that he sent to Kavya, her excitement and gratitude reinforcing his sense of purpose and romantic destiny. The final weeks before departure were consumed with visa documentation, travel insurance, and coordination with Kavya's family regarding ceremony logistics. Her relatives were arranging accommodation at a luxury hotel in Chandigarh, organizing traditional musicians and religious officials, preparing feast menus that would satisfy both regional customs and international palates. The planning felt authentic enough to convince someone who desperately wanted to believe, detailed enough to survive casual scrutiny, expensive enough to seem legitimate rather than fraudulent. Arjun's departure from Dubai International Airport carried all the emotional weight of someone crossing a threshold into new life chapters. Arjun's Emirates flight touched down at Indira Gandhi International Airport on a humid March morning. Delhi's pre-monsoon air, carrying the familiar blend of spices, exhaust fumes, and possibility that always accompanied his returns to the subcontinent. After 7 hours of restless anticipation, he felt the nervous energy of someone about to meet his destiny and formalize the relationship that had consumed 8 months of his life through digital courtship. The connecting flight to Chandigarh was delayed by fog, extending his anxiety as he clutched the carry-on containing emerald jewelry and formal engagement documents his Dubai lawyer had prepared. He had memorized traditional Punjabi greetings, practiced respectful phrases for Kavya's parents, and mentally rehearsed ceremony details that would transform their long-distance relationship into official engagement before both families and immigration authorities. At Chandigarh Airport, Arjun scanned the arrival area expecting Kavya's radiant smile and her father's dignified welcome. Instead, he found only taxi drivers and hotel representatives. His phone showed no messages from Kavya, and calling her number went directly to generic voicemail that sounded nothing like the voice he'd fallen in love with during countless midnight conversations. The first tendrils of concern replaced excitement as he realized the woman he planned to marry had failed to meet him. The taxi ride to her provided address took him through Chandigarh's planned sectors, past government buildings and residential areas, finally stopping at house number 347 in Sector 22, exactly matching his carefully written notes. But when he rang the doorbell, a middle-aged Punjabi woman emerged who had never heard of Kavya Patel or her family. Confusion transformed into panic as Arjun realized either he'd received wrong information or something far more sinister was unfolding. The neighbors suggested contacting police, explaining that residential fraud had become common with international marriage arrangements. At Sector 22 Police Station, Sub-Inspector Jaswant Singh listened to Arjun's story before shaking his head with professional recognition that sent ice through his veins. "Sir, we've been investigating similar cases for 2 years," Singh explained in Hindi. "Women creating fake identities to defraud foreign-based Indians seeking traditional marriages. The sophistication is increasing, and the amounts involved are growing larger." Desperate for answers, Arjun checked into a business hotel and began making frantic calls. Kavya's number remained disconnected. Her WhatsApp messages showed delivered but unread, and every family contact led to dead ends. His carefully planned romantic reunion was dissolving into a nightmare of deception and financial manipulation. The breakthrough came on his second sleepless night when an unknown Punjab number called his phone. The voice spoke accented English, introducing himself as Gurpreet Singh and explaining he needed to meet Arjun urgently regarding Kavya Patel. They arranged to meet at a dhaba near Punjab University, where Arjun hoped to finally understand what had happened to the woman who had vanished just when their future was supposed to begin. Gurpreet Singh appeared carrying the weary dignity of someone bearing devastating news. After ordering tea, He withdrew his smartphone and scrolled to a photograph that made Arjun's blood freeze. It showed Kavya in traditional red wedding attire, standing beside a bearded Sikh man during what was clearly a religious marriage ceremony, both radiating genuine newlywed happiness. "This is my brother Hardeep," Gurpreet said quietly. "He has been married to the woman you know as Kavya Patel for 4 years. Her real name is Simran Kaur, and she has been using her money to support their household while pretending to be single and available for marriage to men living abroad." The photograph struck Arjun like physical violence, his hands shaking as reality crystallized. The woman whose spouse visa application sat in UAE immigration offices, whose engagement he had funded with $65,000 from his Dubai accounts, was already married and had been systematically defrauding him while building her real life with someone else. The confrontation Gurpreet proposed was both necessary and terrifying. "Hardeep deserves to know what his wife has been doing," he said firmly, showing additional photographs of Simran and Hardeep at family celebrations, clearly living as a happily married couple. "And you deserve to face the woman who stole your money and destroyed your trust. We've arranged for you to meet them tonight at our family home. Simran doesn't know we discovered her activities or that you're here in Punjab." As evening approached, Arjun found himself in a borrowed car driving through rural roads toward a village whose name he could barely pronounce, carrying evidence of fraud that had consumed 8 months of his life and nearly emptied his Dubai bank accounts. The emerald jewelry remained in his hotel room, along with traditional gifts he'd brought from you, symbols of a future that had never existed except in his desperate imagination. The farmhouse where Hardeep and Simran lived was well-maintained and obviously prosperous, clearly benefiting from regular income that Arjun now understood had come directly from his salary transfers. Warm lights glowed in windows, and he could hear sounds of domestic happiness, dinner preparations, television entertainment, the normal rhythms of married life funded by his unwitting generosity. The woman who answered the door was unmistakably the face he'd fallen in love with through computer screens. But seeing her in person revealed details that digital communication had concealed. She was shorter than imagined, her skin showing natural imperfections that filters had hidden, and most devastatingly, her left hand displayed traditional gold bangles and henna patterns marking her as a married woman in Indian culture. Recognition in Simran's eyes was immediate and devastating. The woman Arjun had known as Kavya Patel stood frozen in the doorway, her face cycling through emotions: surprise, fear, desperate calculation, and finally cold defiance that revealed the calculating person beneath months of romantic lies. Behind her appeared a bearded man in his late 20s, clearly Hardeep, looking confused by strangers appearing at his door during dinner. "Who are these people?" he asked his wife in Punjabi, his voice carrying innocent curiosity of someone whose world was about to shatter. "Ask your wife about the Canadian resident she was planning to marry next month," Arjun said in English, his words cutting through evening air like a blade. "Ask her about the $65,000 she took from me for a wedding that was never going to happen because she's been married to you for 4 years." The confrontation that followed was a collision of 3 destroyed lives. Hardeep's fury was immediate and volcanic, as he understood his wife had been living a double life, using their marriage as cover for elaborate international fraud. His questions came in rapid-fire Punjabi, demanding explanations for expensive items in their home, unexplained income, lies that had funded their entire comfortable lifestyle. Simran's defense crumbled under evidence Gurpreet presented: screenshots of matrimonial profiles, bank transfer receipts, recorded phone conversations where she professed love to Arjun while planning a future that would abandon Hardeep entirely. Her claims of innocence became increasingly desperate as both men realized the full scope of her manipulation. "She told me she was going to divorce you after getting you your residency," Arjun said, his voice breaking as he addressed Hardeep directly. "She said you were just temporary, that I was her real future. She planned to take half of everything I owned and disappear with my money while you waited for a wife who was never coming back." The violence erupted when Hardeep grabbed an iron towel from their kitchen and struck Simran across the head in a moment of rage that silenced her explanations forever. Arjun watched in horror as the woman who had destroyed his life collapsed to the floor, blood spreading across tiles of the home his money had helped purchase. The sound of skull cracking against concrete was followed by silence that seemed to stretch across the entire Punjab countryside. Gurpreet immediately called police while Arjun stood paralyzed, realizing his pursuit of justice had led to a woman's death. Hardeep sat beside his wife's body, alternating between grief for the woman he'd loved and rage at lies that had destroyed everything he believed about their marriage. The investigation revealed a network of similar frauds spanning multiple countries, with Simran's death marking the violent end of an operation that had defrauded dozens of lonely expatriates seeking traditional love across international borders. Arjun returned to Dubai carrying trauma that no professional success could heal, while Hardeep was sentenced to 12 years in prison for manslaughter, his defense arguing extreme emotional disturbance upon discovering his wife's comprehensive betrayal. The case became landmark prosecution for international marriage fraud, leading to stricter verification processes and better cooperation between immigration authorities. The money Arjun had sent was never recovered, but awareness campaigns emerging from the case helped prevent similar frauds, with matrimonial websites now requiring face-to-face verification and immigration offices demanding comprehensive background checks. Arjun eventually found healing through support groups for fraud victims, sharing his story as warning to others about sophisticated methods criminals use to exploit loneliness and cultural displacement. He never married, unable to fully trust again, but found purpose in protecting others from the kind of devastation that had nearly destroyed his faith in human connection. The village where Simran and Hardeep had lived became a cautionary tale throughout Punjab, a reminder that pursuing easy money through deception could destroy not just victims, but perpetrators themselves. 3 lives had indeed been destroyed forever, one ending in death, one in prison, and one carrying permanent scars of betrayal that would never fully heal.